Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, the architect-in-chief of India's domestic and foreign policy in the early years of its birth and growth. He was born in Allahabad into a wealthy Kashmiri family and educated at Oxford. He embodied a synthesis of ideals, politically an ardent nationalist, ideologically a pragmatic socialist, and secular in religious outlook. A rare combination of intellect, breadth of vision and personal charisma that attracted support throughout India. For the better part of the 20th century, Nehru remained at the center of Indian politics. He has been credited with establishing India as a sovereign, socialist, secular and democratic republic. His will and testament reflect a deep love for India above all.
I have received so much love and affection from the Indian people that nothing that I can do can repay even a small fraction of it.
Jawaharlal ji passed away in 1964. He was an iconic figure in the freedom movement, and the first 17 years he was India's Prime Minister. So when he passed away, it was a massive trauma in a way for India, because they'd got so used to Panditji being there. So we had a meeting. We decided, the meeting was chaired by Dr. Zakir Hussain, and Indira ji was there, and I was there as secretary. Indira ji, I think, was vice chairman, Zakir Hussain was chairman. And we decided two things. First of all, that this whole complex would be the national memorial to Jawaharlal Nehru.
Following his death, which was a tragic loss for the country, Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri appointed a committee of 5 that included one person who's still with us today. He is a member of the NMML Society, Dr. Karan Singh. They decided that this would become a national memorial for Jawaharlal Nehru. It would have a museum, not only on his life, but also on the freedom struggle. It would also have a library, not only on his life, but on the freedom struggle and modern Indian history. So his legacy lives on in the work of the museum and the work of the library.
And this is the building that became almost synonymous with India's first Prime Ministers in those years of India's birth as a free nation, Teen Murti Bhavan. The monument gets its name from Teen Murti, which means 3 statues, a memorial created by British sculptor Leonard Jennings. The building was designed by Robert Torr Russell as the residence of the Commander-in-Chief of the British Forces in India. Constructed in 1930, it was originally called Flagstaff House. Nehru lived here between 1947 and 1964, the year of his death. Immediately afterwards, it was decided that this house would be converted into a memorial to take forward his legacy. And beyond being a memorial, a library on modern India to promote research on what came to be called Nehruvian history. Initially, 3 research divisions were set up for this: a manuscript division, oral history division, and research and publications division. At the center of the manuscript division were 2 invaluable collections of individual and institutional papers. the Jawaharlal Nehru papers and the All India Congress Committee papers respectively. In due course, the mandate swelled. Sustained efforts were made to collect documents from private hands all over the country and store them systematically for research and reference. Today, the Nehru Memorial has more than 900 sets of institutional records and private papers on Nehru from all over India and abroad, making the organization the largest repository of private and non-official papers in the country.
Really, the library is today the largest repository of material on the freedom movement. It's not only Jawaharlal Nehru. It is the whole freedom movement from 1847 to 1947. So not 1857 to 1947. For 90 years. That is the period that we cover. And we've collected over the years vast repertoire of manuscripts, of personal papers, of documents, of films, and so on. And that's a zakhira, it's a treasure. It's a national and international treasure.
The kinds of documents that you have there, pertaining to those years, includes a large number of other people.
While the institutional papers are in the form of subject files, individual collections comprise correspondence, subject files, writings, speeches, notes, press clippings, and the like.
It has the papers of 1200 key people in the history of 19th, 20th century India.
To ensure safety of this priceless heritage, the Nehru Memorial is digitizing available content and putting it online. Digitization has come as a boost to the Center for Research in Modern Indian History. Then there is the process of microfilming of content. This preserves the records, enables case of access, and saves them from wear and tear. After magnification, microfilms are directly readable. They provide adequate information content where black and white, grayscale images are sufficient. They are inexpensive, reliable, and ideal standard for the long-term preservation.
Now we are upgrading the library, we are upgrading the museum, and we are organizing a better structure, and we are putting everything online so that it's available. For example, our selected works, we've already got 75 volumes. We're putting them all online so that they become available to a broader public.
We are undertaking right now a large digitization program. Our library is vast. It has nearly 20,000 microfilms of newspapers. It has almost 250,000 photographs. Digitizing will help preserve them. We'll keep the original, but we'll also digitize.
Microfilm viewing equipment is simple, just light and magnification tools. And life expectancy is more than 100 years.
माइक्रोफिश बेसिकली माइक्रोफिल्म से थोड़ी डिफरेंट है. जैसे माइक्रोफिल्म्स में रोल्स होते हैं, हम इस पर प्रोजेक्टर पे लगाते हैं, उसको देखते हैं माइक्रोफिल्म रीडर पे. इसी तरह से माइक्रोफिश हैं. ये माइक्रोफिश में क्या होता है, प्लेट बनाते हैं, उसके अंदर 60 या 70 पेजेस के करीब वो कवर कर लेता है, और फिर उसको हम प्लेट्स को नीचे माइक्रोफिल्म रीडर पे लगाते हैं, तो पूरा वर्जन जो है वो उस पर नज़र आता है स्क्रीन के ऊपर. तो 1 बाय 1 आप उसको वर्टिकल हॉरिजॉन्टल करके देख सकते हैं पेपर्स को. इसको कैप्ट करना और भी ईजी है.
All this makes Nehru Memorial a priceless repository of India's heritage, especially that connected to the freedom struggle. See here, a vision charter of Free India by the Hindustan Gadar Party, written on June 6, 1928. The party was founded by Lala Hardayal in California in 1913. Its sole aim, it says, is
to encourage the establishment of a system of government in India which shall be free from all foreign control and which shall have as its aim the greatest manner and which shall guarantee freedom of thought, speech, press and organization and ensure the minimum necessities of life to all.
On to another issue that has resonance in modern time, food security. This report, submitted by then Agriculture Minister C. Subramaniam to incumbent AICC President K. Kamraj, dates back to 1966. Dr. Subramaniam articulates India's need for self-reliance and food security at the earliest, criticizing dependence on Western countries as undesirable and unfeasible. These seminal thoughts were precursor to the Green Revolution. Many decades later, the ground situation remains grey. Then there are writings dating back to 1942 that articulate Mahatma Gandhi's approach and leadership that piloted the watershed Quit India movement. Gandhiji moved millions, proclaiming every Indian who desires freedom and strives for it must be his own guide. Let every Indian consider himself to be a free man. In that fiery, do or die speech on the day the Quit India movement was declared. Yet another gem is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's submission to the Indian Statutory Commission on behalf of Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha on 29th May 1928. There, through this petition, he requests the Bombay Presidency government for a school for the lower castes in Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra. Between 1927 and 1932, Ambedkar had led a series of non-violent campaigns to assert the rights of untouchables to draw water from public tanks and wells and to enter Hindu places of worship. The collection includes a representation given to Pandit Nehru by the scheduled caste communities of Konkan district demanding an inquiry into Ambedkar's death. Nearly 70 years on, the 1947 partition of India still rakes up raw emotions. The integration of Junagadh and Hyderabad states deserve special mention. These newspaper cuttings reveal confrontationist postures adopted by these states. The reports date back to September 23, 1947, expose Pakistan's hand in fomenting trouble by shipping arms to these states to sabotage India's integration efforts. Missives from Jam Sahib of Nawanagar expose plans to unleash war against India to annex Junagadh and expand its influence in the Kutch region. Sardar Patel had foiled these designs. Even now, there is a misperception that every Muslim was in favor of partition and Pakistan. This speech, dating back to 1946, corrects that mindset. General Secretary of Jamaat al-Ulema Hind, Maulana Hifzul Rahman, challenged the very thought of partition. He says,
Pakistan is a birth invention aimed at retaining the ports of Karachi and Calcutta after so-called Hindustan slips out of British hands. Pakistan state will be economically bankrupt and politically dependent. The Pakistan cry is means of diverting people's attention from the fight for freedom.
Another nationalist, Maulvi Sirajuddin of Deoband, describes,
The demand for Pakistan is exceedingly foolish, politically unsuitable and suicidal to the whole Islamic world.
These prophetic words echo across time. The archives contain priceless insights into those high-voltage decades in the run-up to and after India's independence. Though peaceful, the last few years before independence did see rising bitterness between India and Britain. As Nehru pushed for early independence, he squarely held the 150 years of British rule responsible for India's ruin. Reports say he was aware of the conspiracy to break India. His stand on the division was clear: Pakistan possible only after freedom. At a gathering in Karachi, Nehru had said,
Congress had favored a willing federation. It would not force or coerce any unit into federation. If Muslims after freedom has been won wanted separation, none could prevent it.
Our policy
Nehru had deep faith in the canons of democracy and knew the perils of status quoism. He challenged the feudalistic structure, saying it is bound to crumble with the rising tide of democracy and political consciousness among the people. The communal fires stoked by partition also had a subtext, one which lingered for years afterwards. A letter written by Manohar Dhali, an MLA in East Pakistan, to a minister in the Pakistan government reveals atrocities unleashed on the minorities in Khulna district in present Bangladesh. The atrocities continued for years and were perhaps a trigger for the 1971 genocide and emergence of Bangladesh. The Nehru Memorial Museum's Oral History project was conceived as part of its research activities. It came into being in the summer of 1966. This section houses reminiscences and interviews of over 1,300 leading figures of the freedom struggle and beyond. Of these, nearly 900 interview transcripts have been finalized and made available for consultation for scholars in the reading room.
Very important collection of oral archives. We have already transcribed over 900 interviews of freedom fighters and others who have taken part in the evolution of modern India. So when you refer to subaltern, the freedom struggle section includes a lot of interviews with not very well-known people from the various satyagrahas, the various freedom actions. Similarly, it includes over 175 people who played a key role in the making of Indian foreign policy.
The emphasis is on the recollections of men and women who came in contact with India's great leaders or were associated with important political events or movements as participants or as witnesses. While in Mastro, Yehudi Menuhin remembers his close friend Nehru thus.
As time recedes like a tide, leaving over a great person of the past isolated like some rock upon the shores of history, so does the substance of that person become all the more discernible, clearer to define in intrinsic terms, so long as one guards against the indubitable dangers of one's own emotional weather, avoids the pitfalls of hindsight, remembers the particular ethos, the political climate in which that person lived his life, made his judgments, used his power, then one should be able to recreate an honest and credible image of him.
Menuhin recalls one warm evening after dinner as Pandit Nehru stood on the balcony.
As we listened to the distant night cries of animals, the soft chatter of invisible humans in the garden below, and felt on the gentle wind in the darkness the vastness of India, he said, "I know the problems appear insoluble, but I believe in India. All that is needed for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing."
Faz Ahmed Faz, among the literary giants of undivided India, comments on the uneasy tensions between India and Pakistan.
अपनों से जो घाव लगते हैं वे बहुत गहरे होते हैं। इसी वजह से हमें जो एक दूसरे से दुख पहुंचा है, वो गैरों से अगर यही सूरत हाल होती तो शायद इतनी इसकी वजह से रंजिश नहीं पैदा होती।
The oral history canvas is embellished with personalities like Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Acharya J.B. Kriplani, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, Dr. Sushila Nair, E.M.S. Namudripad, H.V. Kamath, A.P. Jain, Nawab of Chhatri, Dr. Jivraj Mehta, R.K. Nehru, H.M. Patel, Jyoti Basu, I.K. Gujral and V.P. Singh. Among the scientists in this galaxy are S. Chandrasekhar, eminent astrophysicist and Professor Sateen Bose. Foreign dignitaries are included too: Louis Mountbatten, Fenner Brockway, Horace Alexander, James Cameron, Mrs. Martin Luther King, Willy Brandt, Chancellor Kreisky of Austria, Pierre Mendès of France, Chester Bowles, Tibor Mende and many others find a place. On to the third section of Nehru Memorial, the photo division, that houses photographs of freedom movement and national leaders of the pre- and post-independence period. This collection currently stands around over 2 lakh photographs. That's beside negatives of another lakh or so images. These are moments frozen in time for posterity to wonder at. Mahatma Gandhi. Subhash Chandra Bose with his friends of the Indian National Army and from Japan. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Frontier Gandhi, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and scores of others. These images also reflect a savagery that was heaped upon these brave hearts by the British in India. Jallianwala Bagh. These pictures bring back painful memories of the day. Scores of men, women and children were ruthlessly gunned down by General Dyer and his forces. These ugly bullet wounds on the wall continue to haunt the collective consciousness of free India. Or Alfred Park in Allahabad. Photographs taken immediately after the staged police encounter that killed revolutionary Chandrasekhar Azad. Here is another gem. Shahid Bhagat Singh photographed secretly at Lahore Railway Police Station during his first arrest from 29th May to 4th July 1927 in connection with Lahore Dashera bomb case on 25th October 1926 with Gopal Singh Pannu, DSP CID Lahore. And this one, the tricolour announcing a free nation. This picture was taken on 16th of August 1947. 24 hours after the national flag was first hoisted from the ramparts of the Red Fort. It took 200 years and millions of dreams to realize this magical moment.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
That perhaps would be the best way to remember him, not just as an icon of the past, but as a person whose life we must continue to study and of course differ on, because as a Democrat he himself said, democracy has no place for Caesars. It has a place, of course, for Prime Minister, and it is in his time that the office of Prime Minister, as the pivot of the Indian political system, was actually defined. It's the first time in our history we had a Prime Minister, a Parliament, a Cabinet, and it's a living testimony to not only him but the other founding parents of the Indian Constitution that endures as one of India's great strengths to this day.
He used to sometimes call people to breakfast. That was his khas din mein kripa ho, breakfast. So he would sit there, Indira Gandhi, Sanjay and Rajiv and Sanjay, and so he used to talk. Then sometimes he talked to me about how the future of India is going to be. The feudal things are not going to last forever. We have to build a different kind of society. बैठ के जैसे ट्यूटोरियल देते हैं ना, वैसे मेरे से बातें करते थे.
Freedom brings its own responsibilities and burdens, and they can only be shouldered in the spirit of a free people, self-disciplined and determined to preserve and enlarge their freedom. We have achieved much. We have to achieve much more. Let us then address ourselves to our new tasks with the determination and adherence to high principles which our great leader has taught us.
To this day, the Nehru Memorial keeps alive that dream and vision that India's first Prime Minister lived and died for. Teen Murti House, a lone sentinel from the past, silently watches as India marches on.